You see, Puranas or ancient histories, right? And why should anybody study history? Why do we need history as a subject? Once when I was in Virginia, we all went to a Holocaust museum, and I really was shaken to the core at the horrors of Holocaust. And I came and shared that with our Swamiji. And our Swamiji said he completely agreed with the horrors of Holocaust, etc. And then he said, do you know that freedom to India from whoever the oppressors were, Britishers, did not come cheap. We had to do so much of sacrifices to protect our territorial integrity, to protect our cultural integrity, our traditional and spiritual integrity. It was a tremendous cost we all paid. A cost in form of finance, in form of human capital, in form of resources and all that. And Swamiji said that unfortunately, we don't teach history as emotionally as maybe we should. And it's a divided group here, okay? Many people say, let bygones be bygones, let's not kindle the past and create emotions, etc. While another group says that let's not forget the past so that we don't take what is available right now as granted. And so I realized one thing, that history also makes us feel very grateful for what we are right now, because history tells about how things which are available to us right now has been given to us in form of, say, scientific knowledge or spiritual knowledge, or even technological advancements. In fact, I saw a very interesting TED talk some years back where they say that one of the greatest inventions may not be even a computer, etc. It is washing machine, because it freed the time of many women folk who classically did the job. So they had time and they could think about bigger things and create a change in society and all that stuff. So it was a very interesting thought that the greatest invention is a washing machine. So here, history gives us, if I can sort of collect all the thoughts here, three things. First, it tells us the various past mistakes and positives which happened in the past, in hopes. The intent of history is don't repeat them, okay? The second thing is it also tells us the process of how we are, what we are right now, and what are the various developments which happened in the past as a cause of the current state which we are in right now. Because things don't happen overnight. There are a lot of things which takes time. Social changes may take centuries or decades. History helps us to recount the journey to where we are right now. So I understand the process of various cause and effects, etc. The third thing history does is, I guess, gives us an opportunity to be grateful for what has been given to us, you see, and to make us realize that things are not just accidents, it's just happened. There are a lot of things which have gone into it. So the history is there, in my view, in the way which we were discussing. History is there to depict a principle of cause and effect chain, which leads us to where we are right now. It's also is embodying a principle of what went right, what went wrong in the past. It's a body of knowledge so that we don't repeat the mistakes and we don't let go of an opportunity to become better, which worked in the past. Let's take it. The third thing is a principle of gratitude, of appreciating what is available instead of just taking it for granted. Now, the various events in the past encompass these principles, these three principles. Are you with me? Because I'm going to take a quantum leap right now. So three principles, isn't it? So now what I was wondering is, if historic events record, if the historic events documentation is there to encompass these three principles, why can't I make tattva or principles a part of my history? If history itself is for these three principles, why can't I make important principles a part of my ancient history? You see? So now it's a law of commutativity, right? A equals B means B equals A type of a thing. So I guess our brilliant spiritual incredible Indian or maybe even other ancient minds of other cultures decided to document the principles as a part of history. When I say principles, I mean fundamental principles. Fundamental principles which govern the creation of this universe itself. Fundamental principles which direct a universal law of human emotions, human needs, human success, human joy. You see, first one is called cosmology. Second one is what is called as philosophy. You see, so they made cosmological principles and a person's psychological principles which lead to true lasting happiness, which we call liberation, moksha, etc. These principles has become a part of our history, which is what we call now as Puranas. So, of course, there was a king called Dhruva, and we all know where Mathura is. He ruled. And along with it, there are some astronomical principles which are sublated, which are conflated rather, not sublated, which are mixed with the life of Dhruva, which is also the truth. There are some philosophical tenets which are added to Dhruva's life. There are cosmological tenets and principles which are added to a life of an ancient Raja, and we get a composite history of events, facts, principles, all integrated into one story. And for 6,000 years, this story without much change, much transformation has been passed on because of the power of what we call right now as blockchain. You know what a blockchain is, right? It's very difficult for us to hack a blockchain for a simple reason that it's very beautifully, immensely divided. There is not one place you can touch and try to hack it. For those who don't understand blockchain, another Googling for you to expand your vista of knowledge. Our Puranas are the real informational, philosophical, cosmological blockchains. You cannot play around. You cannot corrupt it much because in one Purana, which is Bhagavata Purana, there is a Dhruva story. In Vishnu Purana, there is Dhruva story. In Skanda Purana, there is Dhruva story. So you can't fundamentally change Dhruva story. But Bhagavata Purana would give you a flavor of devotion, a flavor of jnana. Skanda Purana will give you a flavor of understanding which places or pilgrim spots in India holds tremendous holiness, etc. All interwoven with the main thread of Dhruva story, you see. And then some other Purana would add astronomical aspects to it. Vishnu Purana says that Narada Maharshi did not come and educate Dhruva. It is the Saptarishi Mandala which came. So there is an astronomical aspect to the Dhruva story in a different Purana. And our Vyasa Bhagavan collated all that and he created, if I can use the word, blockchain to protect our information, our history, our knowledge, the entire body of knowledge which covers events, which covers philosophy, which covers cosmological knowledge, which is very intuitive from our rishis, everything integrated into these itihasas and Puranas, because brilliantly they understood that if history is here to encompass few principles, tattvas, why can't tattvas be a part of history? You see? And that's why I sent you this small photograph where cause and effect of human psychology or human universal law called dharma has been very beautifully made it as father, sister, son, grandson, great-grandfather, etc. when it comes to adharma. So now they created a lineage or a family as a model for us to remember, if we go in the path of adharma, what is the cause and effect chain? And as we already discussed, history's centerpiece is, if I am what I am right now, what happened in the past which led me to where I am right now? When I say I don't mean me as an individual, I mean us as a human race, us as a part of this world, etc. So this idea needs to be developed further, and I'm sure you all are very well trained, thanks to a lovely education system in your own respective countries, whether India or US or wherever, to think originally, to try to bring out various streams of thought for us to understand how our rishis brilliantly used Puranas, stories, and interwove fundamental, important, vital principles which humankind need to preserve. And in spite of 1,000 years of oppressive rule, when it comes to religion, when it comes to religion, our Sanatana Dharma was actually put to so much trials and tribulations. But this blockchain technology, I would say, it's a very crude way to compare, ensured that no amount of hacking attempts to either destroy this entire body of knowledge or to corrupt this body of knowledge was not successful to a great degree, because they managed to integrate so many things together. And our Swamiji always used to say, Krishna Leela is very simple. It is Bhagavan who descended 5,000 years back. We know where he descended, we know what life he had. And all that is very simple history for us, ancient history for us. And Tattva is not very important for Krishna Katha. It is more relishing and the flowering of love when you listen to Krishna Katha. But if you want to understand Pruthu's story, for example, Priyavrata's story, for example, or Jadabharata's story, for example, or any other earlier stories than Krishna's or Rama's, you see, Ramachandra Prabhu's, then you need this tremendous power of intuition, focus, concentration, and thirst to unravel its mystery, to understand at least a little bit of the various aspects of the recounted history we find in Puranas. And that's the reason why each time we open this Bhagavatam, of course, Krishna Katha is supreme, it's joyful, rasa, etc. We'll come back to rasa very shortly. But the other 9 cantos should not be discounted also. The brilliance of our rishis, the brilliance of Vedavyasa Bhagavan, forget other rishis, in weaving all these thoughts together into a narrative which has this protection of what is called as a blockchain technology. And I would enthuse all of you to go and find out what it really means. Even if you understand 5% of what they are talking about in blockchain, you'll understand that beauty of how our Sanatana Dharma managed to tide over such difficult times to protect its body of knowledge. And he weaved all these thoughts together and gave a narrative, you see. And that has stood the test of time. And for people who are willing to explore, for people who are thirsty to understand these Upanishads, these Puranas rather, they speak to people. And when you open it with devotion, that's why we worship it, because physically and mentally they are all integrated. If you physically show reverence, the mind also becomes reverential to it. When you are reverential to something, you're really open to it. And when you're really open to it, it figuratively speaks to you and gives you the various facets and aspects of that wonderful truth, which is like, multifaceted, multidimensional. And that's how beautiful, that's how exhilarating our quest and our journey of exploring Bhagavatam is, you see. And our Swamiji used to say, not just reading the translation will help. You need to meditate on what is being said with reverence and openness and devotion for us to unravel its, can I say, infinite hues, infinite colors of Bhagavad. And for those who want to have a little bit of a appetite to understand few things, in my guess, okay, it's not what Mahatma said, so I'm not going to make it appear as if it's authoritative. If you read Priyavrata's story, it is in the 5th canto, first chapter, second chapter, first and second chapters, mostly in the first chapter of 5th canto. We all learn in our ancient geography and geology that we had what is called as a continental drift, that Earth was a single landform, and slowly the continents drifted over faces to form the 7 land masses or continents, etc. That's a very recent study. And I was so happy to hear the various details. The person who proposed it was considered senile and foolish, stupid. People didn't take what he said seriously until they started finding lot of evidences that are incontrovertible from geology, from biology, from marine biology. You should go and explore this about continental drift and how people were forced to admit that he was right after 30, 40 years of research. If you read Priyavrata's story, in a very typical poetic fashion, Priyavrata takes a chariot, goes round the world 7 times, and splits the landmass, creates ocean in between land masses, and that's how the 7 continents came into being, you see. So, which is very beautiful way of possibly talking about what we call as a continental drift, which geologists seem to agree now, and they weren't in agreement 60 years back or 100 years back. But our Purana understands that if it tells continental drift, which is too much an advanced subject for normal people to understand about, say, 1,000 years back, even in India, they made it and integrated that into a life of a great ruler called Priyavrata. And people talked about it as a wonderful fantasy when it was actually encompassing something far deeper, a principle. Remember that? A principle, the principle of continental drift possibly was very beautifully, deftly interwoven with Priyavrata's story so that it stood 5,000 years. And people, if you just tell about a theory and people don't seem to understand the theory, they will trample upon it and it will be lost forever, isn't it? But in Bhagavatam, it is preserved because it's brilliantly interwoven with a historical story, so that for a person with the right amount of openness, with the right amount of basic knowledge, can at least unravel a portion of it and understand, yes, my goodness, maybe that's what they are talking about. And so many such secrets are there in our wonderful Bhagavatam. That's why it is said that Srimad Bhagavatam is Guhyam. Guhyam na secret. In the Dhyana Sloka, which I'm sure all of you have it by heart, it is said, when our Sutta Pauranika is extolling Shukamuni, he says that Srimad Bhagavatam is Purana Guhyam. And why it is Purana Guhyam? Not because it was not accessible to people. It was accessible to everybody. But the truths which are very beautifully interwoven with the stories, whether it is science or geology or biology or cosmology, or above all, true philosophy of human happiness and transcendence or actualization, etc. It's all there. If we are a little open to it, if we open it with our own heart being open to it, and if we approach it reverentially with devotion, it does speak, it does reveal. And that's the beauty of Bhagavatam. Think over this little sort of discussion we had about history and Puranas. You will understand that the genius of our ancient rishis obviously are not understood by normal people. Who understood even a normal scientific genius like Einstein? I'm saying normal because compared to our rishis, pardon me, pardon my insolence, but he pales in comparison compared to our rishis' tremendous genius of self-realization and the rest. this concept of history and trying to interweave principles as history, I would ask at least some of you to think about it and tell me what you sort of gather from such a thought experiment. And I'd love to hear from you next time.